I always find it very curious how every time you go home for the holidays or over the summer to see your parents, you always happen to revert back into your childhood self or your teenage self, which is typically like depressed, emo, I want to kill myself. Like, I thought it was healed, right? Well, I thought so too, but this came to me. It's because when you healed, right, it's not in the environment that you are now. Like, I got this cut on my finger when I was 8 or so. I don't know if you can see it. I got this from when I opened a new knife and I was trying to make a slingshot out of a stick I found in my backyard, right? And I was cutting it like this. It's stupid, I know. And I got caught in something. And then, boom. Once it got off the part that it was caught on, the stick, it sliced my finger right here. So how does this relate to healing, right? Because initially it bled a lot. Right? This is the first time I felt this pain. But after a few days, it went away, it scabbed over. Now, right now it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. And sometimes you even forget about it. But if I press really hard, it hurts. Unlike this finger, which doesn't have the cut. So the same thing happens when you go back home for the holidays. When you healed, it's because you've had a safe space away from your parents, whether that's your apartment, your dorm, where, now you got a big girl job, you're working, you don't live with your parents anymore. You've healed in safe conditions where you felt safe to explore your scars, your wounds. Now, when you come back, that's like pressing on the wound. You're putting pressure back on it. If you do the same thing, if you hurt the same place, then it's going to hurt. Even though it's healed, right? That's like if I get a burn on my hand and then I put more hot water on it. That doesn't mean you're not healed. It means you're in a hurtful situation again. But even though we have these scars, it doesn't mean that we should get rid of them, okay? A scar is an indicator that it happened. When it scars over, you get scar tissue, right? That's your body's response, your defense mechanism to something that has hurt you. Do not blame it for being ugly. Do not blame it for healing quickly or healing wrong or ending up disfigured. That was the best you could do in conditions it's never faced before. The same way, do not blame yourself for the way you are now, the problems you may have in relationships, because of the way you grew up. You did not suffer anything. Do not call yourself a victim. You may want to think of yourself as a victim, but it's not a great mindset to have, okay? Because easily you can make that your identity. When you introduce yourself to other people, starting with the scar, right? If I got burned on my hand, hi, I'm Suki. I have this burn on my hand from when I was 8. Do you want that? No. But that's what happens when you call yourself a victim of something. That invites other people to call you the same. This scar is just a reminder that it happened. And say you have problems now in relationships, like attachment styles, maybe the way your parents raised you when you're growing up. Now you have an avoidant attachment style or something like that. And we can attribute this to, the scar tissue, right? Now, when you have scar tissue, that was the best you can do in your situation. Do not blame it for the way it looks or how poorly it formed. What you should work on is in your present life, when you're trying to form new relationships, when you find somebody you like, and you're still scarring over, you're still using that scar tissue to treat these ways. Even though you're not in a dangerous environment, your heart still thinks it is. Because why? Even though the mind is healed, the heart remembers the hurt. So logically, it doesn't make sense to react with scar tissue anytime there's a potential of something going wrong. If you like somebody and they like you back, and you think, oh, well, something's wrong, because if they like me back, I don't want to be in any club that wants to like me. I don't want to be in any club that associates with me, because you think lowly of yourself. So what does that mean? If someone likes me, then they must not be that great. And if you like someone and you think they're great, then as a return, you think you're not that great. It's systems of thought like these that make you keep employing the scar tissue, this reaction that you've developed when you were young, to situations that aren't dire like that. It's because the heart hurts. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Even though you're healed, do not be so naive as to neglect things that may have affected you when you were young. That doesn't make you a victim to recognize something that has happened that you need to work on. There's shadow work to be done. But, that doesn't mean that you're weak, right? That doesn't mean you're a victim or anything. It's just something that happened and you need to work on now. And you need to notice that the scar tissue isn't helping you. When the logic isn't logicking, that means something is tipping the balance. And here it's an emotional one, okay? This scar tissue forms when something has been abrasive, something has been extremely hurtful, and you have to rapidly cover it up, and then it stays because you had an overreaction. So we can't keep employing this frame of mind into our future relationships. To keep doing scar tissue for things that are not seriously hurtful to you, where it doesn't fit in, is because in the equation, you have fear. You still fear that this situation is going to be more hurtful than it is. You fear if you tell this person you like them, and if they abandon you, then you're going to feel like you did when you were a child. And then the scar tissue will form before anything has even happened. You're so closed off that you don't want to be hurt again. Well, I'll tell you this. Recognize these systems of thought that you have, okay? You're young. As long as you're still alive, you're young. Everybody should have a young mentality. It's never too late to change. Do not ever be the first to poison yourself thinking, no, I'm always going to be closed off. Every time I have a chance at a new relationship, I'm never going to put myself, all in because I'm afraid. Recognize you have this fear and work through it. Okay, you are a team with yourself. I know it's going to be hard. It's not going to feel right. But tell yourself in the back of your mind that this scar tissue reaction you have is not logical anymore. Maybe it was when you were a child, when you were growing up, and you needed this. You needed this to protect you, to scab over quickly. Recognize that your scars, emotional ones, and maybe physical ones, are an indicator that it happened. Be blessed and thankful that they are and that you've learned, but realize that they aren't the way to keep going forward. So, you're not unhealed. You just are opening the wound when you are putting yourself back in these situations that remind you of your childhood, okay? And keep recognizing what you need to work on. There's no shame in that.